there is so much to say about this one. Because it brings up the other, like the subgroup of colorism, which is gendered colorism. And it's been interesting to kind of see because in media spaces, darker skinned men are preferred,
Mhm.
in entertainment, things like that. But maybe just day to day, darker skinned men are also perceived to they have that perception of being more dangerous. They get longer prison sentences.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Data.
Um, all of that.
Hypersexuality.
That too, that too. And then, the opposite side of that with the lighter skinned women being more, seen as more feminine, submissive, all of these things, easier to deal with, all of that compared to the images and the messaging of a darker skinned woman. And so where that has like the opposite message. And so we see these like breakdowns happening and all of these messages being brought into picking a partner. And it's all pretty skewed, right? Because then you're missing so much based on, skin tone that
Mhm.
and when you think about it, like, we have such a broad range of skin tones as Black people, but somehow we've kind of been categorized in like two, maybe three categories.
Mhm.
And it's, but it leaks over into the dating world and how that impacts relationships and things like that. Um, it's interesting to see, and it brings up that interesting conversation of preference. And oh, well, I prefer this, but that brings it back to what is your intention though, right? And what are your intentions behind that? Where does that preference come from? Where is it really stemming from? Is it
Uh,
truly because you find this skin tone to be more attractive, or is it that you are looking at the other side of the spectrum as more negative, and so you want to be over here? Like maybe somebody preferring a lighter skinned woman. Is it that you really find this lighter skinned woman attractive, or is it something about her being more palatable to whiteness that you are really more drawn to because it makes you feel a certain way?
mhm.
So it really goes back to some intention of peeling back that layer of okay, what is it really and where is it really coming from?
Mhm.
In my personal experiences with dating,
Yeah.
um, I have found myself to be a little drawn to my little darker, you know what I'm saying, a little melanin. Because I'm like, wow, like they're really beautiful. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
It
like,
is.
but truly, um, but I'm open to, all skin tones and things like that. And, Rashawn knows this because, me being divorced and, trying things out, being out here dating and everything. I'm like, oh, okay, we see what's out here. We see what's up. So
Yeah, streets.
just a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's interesting. And I want to speak with Tanisha as well as Sabrina in that area. But I do and then I also had a revelation not too long ago. Uh and I think I've never spoken about this before. So this will be a first for everybody to hear. But first, I want to talk about today's sponsors, Love Fearlessly, stripping labels. We talk about love and loving yourself. And my wife actually created a whole card deck, Love Fearlessly and stripping labels. And what does God like? How does God see you opposed to what culture and society says and these labels? We need to take off the labels and really know who we are because I think a lot of times we struggle with knowing who we are opposed to putting labels that culture and society has placed on us. So, Love Fearlessly, stripping labels. I'll have some more information below in the description. All right, I want to give my revelation that I got um, maybe a week or two ago. So here we go. This is the first. This is the first. I realized my mom is maybe Tierra's complexion. Yeah, about Tierra's complexion. My ex-wife is the same complexion. My wife now is the same complexion. And I realized that I had this preference. And the,
Wow.
yeah, but here's the thing. dark-skinned women has been phenomenal to me my whole life. I cannot recall one bad situation where a dark-skinned woman treated me bad. They have always treated me like a king. I can't recall one bad situation, but I always revert back to a certain color. And I was just like, wow, I guess that played out in my own personal life without me even knowing. So I don't know if it was maybe just because my mom was that complexion and I just kind of stayed with that, or is it that maybe I looked at darker skinned women, maybe like, okay, they cool, but that's not my style. So I don't know, but I just thought that was an interesting dynamic considering how well dark skinned women have treated me throughout my whole life. I would imagine I probably would have been married to one by now, but I'm not. So I thought that was interesting upon this topic. So anyway, Tanisha, can you give us your dating experience and do you have a preference?
Yeah, I think it's interesting just thinking about what we said within the past few minutes. The difference for me, I would say, between a preference and it actually being some form of discrimination is if I attach a personality to whatever preference I have. So that can go to a multitude of things, but specifically with skin tone, I think we see that a lot. And some people, I mean, I've heard some men, even though I know they say, light-skinned women are always preferred, they say light-skinned women have a horrible attitude. We're stuck up. We're conceited. We're all about ourselves, so we're not good partners, right? So those are some things that people really attribute, and it's not just a preference, right? So you're not just embracing or appreciating darker skin because it's beautiful. It's because you feel like the other side has all these negative characteristics. So that's something that I have to catch within myself. To
Mhm.
answer your question, I've definitely dated lighter skin and darker skin.
Mhm.
I have a joke though, so I do prefer darker skin men. And it's so funny because, like, you know how Drake says acting light skin, that ties into what we said. We're light skinned men. You're like, oh my God, they're like very self-centered. They want to be the woman in the relationship. This is why I don't like dealing with them, right? So these are things that I say with my friends as a joke. But then I'm like, maybe that's not the right thing for me to say. So I definitely do have some of those viewpoints as well.
Mhm.
But it's interesting for me because my mother, she is several shades lighter than me. So if you saw my mom, you
Mhm.
would probably think I'm inclined to say albino, but she doesn't have albino features, but she's that light. And
Got
so growing up, she was picked on for her skin tone. So she intentionally dated men who are darker. So my father is a darker skinned man because she wanted us to have color. So growing up, for me, the messages were different. It wasn't like, light skin is great. She actually wanted us to have more color because that was her trauma. So I think we also should reflect on, our parents, their experiences. What did that look like? Because it definitely does shape what we view to be beautiful, what we gravitate toward as adults.
Mm.
Wow, man, this is really good. I'm enjoying this conversation. I really am.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's very layered. It goes very deep. It's very rarely that when you think about skin tone, especially in our community, but in society as a whole, it's never just I like this because it looks good. There's usually some underlying tone.
Mhm.
And the sad thing is, I know your overarching question is, is colorism still a thing? Can we move on from this? And I really don't think we'll ever get to a point where it's fully eradicated. It's kind of like racism. It's so ingrained in our society where we can be aware of it. And I do think that, especially when you're benefiting from privileges like this, you should have self-awareness and speak out on it. But it's not even just the Black community. You look at India, you look in DR versus Haiti, like it's in so many
Mhm.
different cultures that I really don't think that we can unlearn it. But also, I don't think that the people who have privilege will be willing to let it go.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
Bars.
Mhm. What are your thoughts, Sabrina? Um,
I mean, I have to say, I don't know. I'm contending with that thought in my mind because I have two daughters, and one is darker skin like her father, my ex-husband, and the other is a spitting image of me. And it got to a point where we raised them to be so in love with their blackness that my darker skinned children would make fun of lighter skinned children because they were less melanated. Okay. And so we had to reverse some of that conversation and help them understand that it's not that simple, right? It doesn't work like that. Everybody in this family is just as Black as everybody else. Y'all got the same gene pool. Y'all can't, same mama, same daddy. We're not gonna do that, right? On the flip side, like when I say my daughter's my one of my daughters is a spitting image of me, hair, body, face, everything. And my other daughter is a spitting image of her father, hair, body, face, everything. And so when my darker skinned daughter was born, she was a baby doll. Everybody loved her because she had this beautiful brown skin and this curly hair. They would be like, how does she have the hair? They would look at my hair and be like, how does she have that hair? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know these things. And I raised them to appreciate their hair. Now, both of my daughters are locked, just like mom. And their locks look totally different because they have two different grades of hair. And those locks are sitting on two different bodies and two different faces. And I fear, a world where my daughter who's like me, when she does all of this, because that's what she do now. She's 6. Girl, who was you talking to, girl? When she does all of that, it's funny and it's cute. But if my brown skinned daughter does that, it's disrespectful. I can't settle for a world like that. I can't settle for a world where both of my daughters, who are equally brilliant and talented, where my lighter skinned daughter, who's only a year younger than her sister, where doors are more available for her. I can't. I don't know. I can't. I'm just not okay with that. That hurts in my spirit, right? That hurts in my soul. Now, when I was 16 and I prayed to God and I said, God, I don't even want to be married, but if you send them, number 1 on the list is Jesus. He got to love Jesus. Number 2, he got to be dark. Was that my list? And that's all I was looking for in college? In that order, right? Yes, absolutely. Okay. And it was for no other reason than I just thought it was beautiful. They were darker skinned, were beautiful to me. Yeah, growing up, I had a crush on Orlando Bloom, who was white. I had a crush on Shamar Moore, right? But Jay Boog was my man.
Who?
Jarrell DeMonte Houston was my man.
B2K.
Period. Okay.
Who did y'all say?
Yeah. For him. Okay. And of course I, dated or went out with a varying array. But in my heart and soul, there was no other option. And I ain't gonna lie, part of that was because I wanted to birth a beautiful brown baby and raise that brown baby in a world that was better than the one I grew up in, and raise them to have a better view of self than the ones some of my family members experienced and some of my friends experienced. So I definitely identify with your mother, Tynesha, in her choices. And in my soul, in my spirit, no, I don't know if I could. Colorism has to. It gotta go away. Eventually, we gotta realize that everybody is equally as effed up and everybody needs equal amount of grace. And you can be soft or you can be hard. You can be dumb as a box of rocks or you can be smart. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the color of your skin.
Wow.
Like you said, preference absolutely should be attached more to just what you visualize and what you like over attaching it to other characteristics and virtues. That's not how any of this should work, right? But I think, moreover, I don't want to say we shouldn't see color, but we should get to a point where we celebrate all of the colors in all of its beauty and glory. We celebrate all of the hair textures and all of their beauty and glory. We celebrate all of the features, the curves or lack thereof, right? All of it should be celebrated in all its glory, because all of us, I'm a Christian, by the way, all of us was made in God's image. What nobody less made in God's image. All of us was. So I can't, that can't sit with me. I'm not satisfied with that. I'm not satisfied with that. It got to go. It got to.
Yeah, so let me ask this, because not I hear what you're saying, Sabrina, and Tanisha, I hear what you're saying about your mom. So I wonder how many women actually think about that, as far as, will my baby come out this color or that color? Because I remember growing up, and maybe I'm telling my age, that people would say when the baby come out, they would say if the ear was brown, they knew what the color, they knew
Yep.
the ultimate color of the baby would be. And I was just like, I guess that's really a thing, Oh, his ear dark, so he's gonna be chocolate. And I was just like, oh wow, And I guess people kind of put that baby already, I mean, fresh out the womb, like maybe putting judgments on the baby fresh out the womb, you know. So I wonder if women think of that, like, if I'm going to be with maybe I choose to be with a darker man, so my baby won't have to deal with this or that. I never thought about that until you said it, Tanisha.
Yeah, I think men do it too. I mean, I know they do. I've had conversations about this on my platform. And one of the comments that stood out to me was a man who's darker complected. And so he said he's very intentional about dating women who are either light complected or outside of the Black community, because he doesn't want his children to go through the same things that he did. So yes, I think it operates on both sides, whether you are insecure about being lighter, darker, or also if you're a man or a woman.
Yeah, one of my battle buddies that I was in the military with, he's a white guy, and we greatest of friends. And he's like one of those white guys that, is hip with the culture, and so later on he actually dated one of the girls that was in our platoon. She was a Black girl, and he told me, like, right off the rip, like, look, I want a Black woman for my kids to look a certain way. So definitely men think that way. Absolutely.
A lot of people in the entertainment industry think like that too.
A whole lot.
Have
Entertainment,
a
politics is huge. Oh, politics is huge.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my mind is blown right now, because I guess for me, I didn't think, for me personally, I never really thought about that. I was kind of more concerned, like, oh, is my baby gonna have a hairline? How long is hairline gonna be around? That's what I wasn't worried about. I wasn't too much worried about what he looked like. I was, hopefully he can be, a little taller than me,
Oh my God.
That's what I was a little concerned about. But that's I guess that's a whole different dynamic. Because I want to be respectful of your time. Everyone, can you give me some closing comments, or maybe some inspiration to someone maybe who might be struggling with skin complexion? Like, what would be your words of wisdom? What kind of advice would you give someone who's listening to this, or maybe even seeing it? I mean, there's no wrong answer. Let's start with you, Tiara.
Yeah. I think being able to really unpack and being able to acknowledge, the implicit biases, the subconscious, and being able to bring it to the conscious mind, right? A lot of these things that we're, talking about, as far as, these thoughts about, like, going out the sun, what skin tone your baby's going to be, like, all of these things are coming from a place of these subconscious biases and this messaging that has been inundated into our society for centuries and centuries and centuries, right? And while colorism didn't start with us, it can begin to end with us. And I think a big part of that too is being able to, how can we protect ourselves against the effects of colorism? And I think that starts with, having these conversations, and for people that are impacted on the negative side of colorism, definitely like positive affirmations around skin tone, resistance to some of this programming and this messaging that is being put out, and how we can begin to empower others in our communities when it comes to skin tone. And like Sabrina was saying about how we can celebrate each other, and being able to be intentional about and bring awareness to the division that has been placed within our community, right? Because that was on purpose, like how this all got started, right? So when we bring that into our awareness, when we say, hold on, wait a minute, this doesn't really belong to us for real. We can actually fight this system somehow. It might not be completely eradicated altogether, but the more we begin to talk about this in our communities, the more we bring awareness to it, the more we can call it out and say, we have to make changes, because we have to be able to acknowledge the psychological impact that this is having on our people. Mm-hmm. And when we are being able to acknowledge that psychological impact that's happening to our people, we can also begin to resist that, begin to fight against it, begin to combat it, begin to challenge it. And that brings up more questions, more self-awareness, more insight, more introspection. And it also brings about more acceptance of us as Black people, and being able to truly come together. And so I think that's where we can begin to start is continue to have conversations like this.
Yes, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. Tiara, can you also let everyone know how they can get in touch with you? Give us all your information. Anyone who want to contact you, I'll have it in the description, but we would also like to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Therapy with Tia on Instagram. My LinkedIn is Tiara Faulkner. I'm a licensed mental health therapist servicing those who live in the states of Illinois and now Tennessee. So yeah, you can always find me on those platforms.
Awesome. And we got to get you putting out some more tweets, because I've been retweeting your stuff, and I need you to get some more content on Twitter.
I looked at a few of them too. That was really good.
Yeah, I done tweeted all your stuff, so we need some more tweets from you. Tanisha, yeah, so words of wisdom, and let everyone know how they can get in touch with you.
Yes, yeah. So I totally agree that conversations like this, they need to keep happening. Kind of like what we said before. I feel like sometimes you feel uncomfortable, and I'll even be transparent. I hit Sean up and I'm like, okay, so what are we talking about? Like, what questions are you going to ask? And I never do that for most of the content that I do. But the fact that I was a little bit iffy about, can I speak on this? How is it going to be received? I think we need to push past that level of uncomfortability and have conversations like this. And I think self-awareness is key, right? So that can be whether you have your own biases about people who have a different skin tone than you, or if you have insecurities within yourself and figuring out where that comes from. When you know why you're operating in the manner that you do, I think you are more prone to give grace to other people. So I encourage everyone to really just have those moments of reflection and talk to people. Talk to your brown skin friends. If you're brown skin, talk to your light skin friends. Understand the experiences that we're having, because in most cases, even though we focus on our differences so much in this society, a lot of us have shared experiences. There's some sort of commonalities. And I think people just want a safe space. They want to feel respected. Even though I might not have your experience, I want to understand it. And I want you to feel like you can come to me. So just normalizing transparency, which is definitely what my platform is all about. So where you guys can find me, my YouTube is Tynesha Talk. So my name, the way it is on the screen. And my Instagram is Tynesha_Renee. So if you like discussions like these, again, difficult conversations that need to be had, check me out.
For sure. Yeah, because when you hit me on the DM, I was like, uh-oh. Ty not gonna work with me. I said, she ain't gonna do it.
I wouldn't do it like that.
Yeah, I was like, no, I can't do that to me. But I'm glad that you were open and honest about that. And I appreciate that. And fighting through all this stuff that we had to get through tonight, we still made it. So that's what's up. I appreciate it. Yeah. Sabrina, what are your closing thoughts? And where can we find you?
As an educator, my number one thing for us is that this ain't gonna nobody can solve this for us but us. Let's start there. Mm. It is not up to white people who own white media to put more representation on that TV screen. That's not it. We have to educate ourselves and our children, those that we bore and those that we are given access to. It is up to us. Y'all, we in our 30s and 40s. It's us. It ain't them no more. It ain't mamas and daddies and aunties. It's we, the mamas, the daddies, the aunties, the uncles now. It is us. We have to educate ourselves on the history and the present of our people, because we are still African people, even though we are estranged from home. And when we realize the breadth of beauty that exists still to this day and has always existed on the continent, I think that will really empower us to have a more educated, spiritual, and connected ideology of identity within ourselves. So much of our self-hate is directly connected to the way that Africa was painted as barbarism and cannibalistic and simple and uncivilized and uneducated. There are still millions of African Americans to this day who have absolutely no idea the amount of industry and technology and wisdom and spirituality and truth and eternal beauty that existed and still exists amongst African people. And because we have divorced ourselves from that and we have no history, Malcolm X said it best, you ain't got no history, you ain't got nothing. Mm-hmm. You don't have anything. All we have is America and what America says about who we are. Mm-hmm. And that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. Mm-hmm. This place, this land was not built with all the variations of who we are in mind. That's why we just now getting foundation that actually works for us. Like, it wasn't built for us. The clothes wasn't built for us. That's why we just now getting jeans that can fit us right. It wasn't built for us. And we have to be reminded of all of the things, because if generational curses are real, so is generational wealth and generational peace and giftedness. All of that is just as real. But if we don't understand the generations, then we ain't got nothing but the curse of slavery and Jim Crow. That's all we get. Mm. But we get millennia more. Got way more than that, y'all. And so we have to educate ourselves. So when we see Sheba, and when we see the Ethiopians, and when we see the Nigerians, and when we see the Moroccans, and when we see the Ghanaians of history, when we see Benin, and we see Mansa Musa, we think us. That's us. That's us. That's me. That's who I am. Mm. And if they did it, I can too. And if they believed it, I can too. And if that's who they are, that's who I am. And we can walk in that. And then we are more able to celebrate each other despite our differences. So yeah, educate yourselves. And if you don't know how to educate yourself, then you can find educators like me. You can find me on Instagram at she.unapologetic. I do all the things all the time. I'm a poet, I'm an artist, I sing, I be talking sometimes, I be kicking it with people on the internet. I just do whatever feels good in the moment. And I just like to share my life with people and invite people to share their lives with me and live their lives in the most unapologetically authentic way possible. So you can find me on Instagram at she.unapologetic. I am on YouTube too for fake, but it's gonna be for real in 2024. Just you watch. That's she.do everything. Mm-hmm. And yeah. If you find me on them, you'll find me anywhere.
I'm gonna hold you to that. I'm gonna hold you to that. And Tanisha does videos too, so we'll make sure we expect some uploads from you.
For sure.
Jason, closing words. Where can everybody find you?
In which summed everything up, man. I'm full right now. This was really good. I'm glad we all got to come together and just share our thoughts on this. This is something out of me to do for a while. When I brought it to my bro, John, you know, he was very apprehensive about it, and let's jump on. It took us a little bit, but you know, we got to it, and I actually want to do a continuation of this. Strongly that this is going to get a really good, going to be a really good outcome. I really think a lot of people are going to hone in on this and watch this because this is something that is very paramount and big in our community, man. And it's just to, you know, give any words of wisdom, man. You know, again, educate ourselves, man, have greater self-awareness of us, you know, as and just continue to love on yourself more and reach one and teach one. You know, education is big, and that's pretty much it, man. Yeah, I was thinking while everybody was talking, man, I was just saying, what if uh Kim would have heard this podcast before she made all those different transitions and stuff like that. Man, when I saw the picture of her in the comparisons, it really saddened my heart because that is a perfect example of what you would see of self-hate. And because she was a beautiful woman, you know, where all those different cosmetic surgeries happen. And so, man, we
Oh,
need to have more discussions like this.
you're talking about Lil Kim.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you were cutting out. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff I want to say. I'm not, I'll save that for another time. And maybe we'll there's some other celebrities that I'm mad at. I'm like, why are you doing this? But I'll leave
Yeah.
that alone. I
Which,
want to do
oh,
another recording too, but I want to get some men on here and
yeah.
talk to some brothers about this as well. So,
Yeah.
ladies, thank you all for your time. I appreciate you all. Thanks again, Jason.
Oh
But
yeah, I'm sorry. You can find me at Jackson Heights Own.
oh
That's
yeah,
my Instagram name, like the movie Coming to America, Jackson Heights underscore own. So yeah,
yeah,
stand up Coming to America. I love this favorite movie.
for sure. Yeah, and that's kind of a topic too. But anyway.